Hello, guys. This is Fabrizio Carraro, and welcome to this very, very special video. This interview with President Barack Obama. It's such an honor for me to be here, to be the person interviewing President Obama, and also because it was a very hard thing to get to make this happen. We've been waiting for more than 6 months just to get this interview. And the only reason why we could get this was because he's going to publish a book very soon. And now he has a schedule for interviews about his career and about the book as well. So we got only 15 minutes to have this conversation with President Obama. I know it's not too much, but come on, it's 15 minutes with the man. So I really hope you enjoy this interview. And we're going to talk a little bit about languages, about polyglots. Maybe he can join us in a polyglot gathering in the future. So let's get to the interview now. President Obama, thanks a lot for being here on Language Boost. That's my YouTube channel.
I am very happy to be here with you.
President Obama, I have one question that I think it's something everyone thinks about. Being a president is something that is very hard. It's a very draining job, right? And I would like to know if you and Michelle, if you guys were able to go back to a normal life already, to being yourselves.
Michelle and I, that's something we share. We feel good about the work we did. We don't feel.
Mm. What happened? Is it his connection? Is it something in the connection? Is he gonna come back? Or
Maybe I can help.
who are you?
I'm Elisa from LingoCast. You know who I am.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Eliseo. Yeah, I remember you from the Polyglot Gathering. What are you doing here?
Well, you needed a guest, right?
I mean,
Ma-
while we are waiting for Obama, maybe you can help. We can have a short talk while he, I don't know, maybe his internet's not working very well. He has to go to the other room or something.
Yeah, while he contact the IT support, I can replace him for a while.
Okay, okay. So, Eliseo, you're from Brazil, right?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil, exactly.
Well,
Just
where
like
do you
you.
live?
I live in Warsaw, in Poland,
Oh, for how long have you been living there?
for 2.5 years. So yeah, not that long, not that short.
Okay, so but you're also a polyglot, right? So, what are the languages that you speak?
Wow. Okay. Try to remember. And I speak Portuguese as my mother tongue. Then I would try to tell the order I learned them. So then English, German, um, then Spanish, Italian, French, Polish, Catalan, um, Russian, Venetian, Ukrainian, and Serbo-Croatian, and I forgot one. There's one missing.
Nice. That we
Wow.
consider it. It's a lot of languages. So, which one of these languages would you say it's your favorite?
Well, I think it depends on the time, right? I don't know if you have this, but I have also like depends on the time. I am like, oh, nowadays this language is the language I use. Nowadays, I'm consuming a lot of things in German and in French because I have a new job and I'm using French and German. So yeah, these languages they are a big part of my life in this moment. So I can say that they're like this one nowadays. They are my favorite ones.
Okay, okay. And I remember that you speak Italian very well as well, right? So, how did you learn this language to this level?
Well, I started learning Italian because I think similar story to yours. I mean, I also have Italian roots, and back then I didn't know about like the history of Italy, the different languages. So I started to learn Italian because my family, part of my family, came from Italy. So then I started to learn by myself. 1 year later, I went to Italy. I was living there in a like doing a project. I could live with an Italian family, and but I needed to work in a school, and I needed to teach English and Spanish. So I was living with them. In the house, we were speaking only Italian every day. So it was a bit challenging, but Italian is not that different from Portuguese. So the after like 1 2 weeks, you start to understand a lot, and that I kept learning after I left Italy. I kept learning Italian by myself. I could already understand a lot, so every content was very interesting. And I was, because I had like family from Italy, I was very motivated. I always had the motivation to learn Italian, to communicate with Italian people.
Okay. And then you went on to learn Venetian, like you said. That's a
Yeah.
dialect from the north of Italy, from where my family is and your family is as well, right? Why did you start to learn this language, and how do you do it? Because it's not
Mhm.
easy to find materials to learn this such dialect.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I started because actually I found out that, talking with my family, that my family couldn't speak Italian.
Mm,
Like, I don't know about yours if they had any knowledge about Italian, but mine hadn't. They didn't
yeah.
have. So I found out more about Venetian. It was like, what language is it? So I started to research more about the languages of Italy. And but as you said, it's a little bit hard to learn. I knew nothing. I had no idea where I could learn that. I was trying to find some videos on YouTube, but then I found like a Brazilian guy who speaks Venetian, and he actually went to Veneto. And there is actually an academy in Veneto that they created the standard version for the language, because for all these languages they are not used officially.
Mhm.
So if you compare like the Venetian spoken uh, by, let's say, in a non-official way in Venice is different how they speak in Verona, for example. And but this guy, he had a course in the academy, so he has a lot of contact with people from the academy. So he learned this standard Venetian, and I had opportunity to start learning with him. It's called Progetto Lingua Mare, in Venetian, that's mother tongue. And yeah, I started learning with him, and it's a very interesting experience, because every time I meet someone from Veneto and I try to speak in Venetian, I think nowadays people mix a lot of Italian, and they always say, "Oh, you speak better than me," because actually nowadays almost no one speak only Venetian; they mix a lot of Italian, and it's very interesting their reaction. I had that like
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
in Italy, like in the north, people don't usually speak the dialects anymore, right? Like in the south, I don't know, from Napoli and southwards, they speak more. They still
Speak
can
more.
speak a Napolitan, Sicilian, Sardo, right? But in the north, it's kind of hard. We have some friends, and I don't think they can speak the dialects from the north, but they can understand when the grandma is talking, something like this.
Exactly. Yeah, I think among the polyglots that we know, I think the only one I've met that could speak a northern language from Italy was Andrea Ripamonti, that he speaks Lombardian.
Mm,
But I think actually nowadays, if you speak any of these languages, the people who hear you, they already like you get older when they hear you, because I think it's associated with being old.
yeah.
So yeah, it's the young people don't do that much nowadays.
Interesting. But you said that you've been learning many Slavic languages, right? And I was there in Poland last year with you for the Polyglot Gathering. I knew that your Polish was already quite good, but you couldn't speak Russian, if I remember, or not very well, like if I remember
No, not
correctly,
very
right?
well. Yeah.
Yeah. And since then, you've been studying Russian and also Ukrainian, right? That you said, and Serbo Croatian. My question is, what do you do when you want to learn a new language, such as these ones, which are not super easy languages?
hmm I would say that it's not super easy, but I think the first one is the challenge. Yeah,
Mhm.
the Polish was extremely hard for me because it was the challenge. It was the first one, so that was the big challenge. And then when I started learning Russian, Russian and Polish are not that similar, but many things I think like you skip some parts of the language, and it started getting easier. But about like how I started learning the language, actually, you and Lucas, you are like big references for me. So I take a lot of your methods and about the things that we talk. So I did the challenges for, especially for Ukrainian and Serbo Croatian, and I have my own document as well with my phrases, and I try to adapt the phrases with the language and the circumstances that I have, and I make flashcards with them. So I try to have time like for flashcards, for input, so like listening, watching things, and to talk with people. And yeah, so with Ukrainian it worked really well because I don't know if we noticed when you were here, but I think you have more than 500,000 Ukrainians living in Warsaw. So
Mm,
basically I can use Ukrainian every day, so it was
mhm.
almost like learning the language in the country that it's spoken. So everything I was learning I was using every day. I had opportunity. And Ukrainians, they are very happy when people use Ukrainian, so it helps a lot. They are very, I have even like a let's say language partner that actually just talks with me in Ukrainian. So no, it's okay, just for Ukrainian. There's no exchange, And I really appreciate that. It was like a very nice approach, and also took from you that we recorded an episode from my podcast that you were doing 3 month challenges, and I decided
Mhm.
to say I also I want to try. Let's see how much I can learn in 3 months, and also because I'm very impatient. So for me, this moment that I will start to understand the language and consume content, like it kills me. Like that's why I try to do that as fast as I can. Then like when I arrive to this like for example a B1 level that I can understand more things and consume more content is more interesting, then I go slowly. I prefer to slow down a bit.
I see. And how long do you often take to get to this level? Of
Well,
course, it depends
depends
on the language,
depends on
but
the language. Depends on the language, and I would say depend on the circumstances that I have. For example, I couldn't replicate the same challenge with Serbo-Croatian because it was really hard to find people to speak Serbo-Croatian with.
hmm,
So the results were not the same. I was actually a little bit frustrated because I was really hyped after Ukrainian, and so I think everything you need to find to understand the circumstances that you have and create a goals based on that, and also your strategy also based on this. And I think depends. Maybe I mean, of course, I told also in my podcast when I made that episode about my challenge that probably like a person who had never learned a Slavic language before will do like a 3 month challenge to learn any Slavic language. You will not be able to say a lot after 3 months. Yeah. But in my case, I already knew some Russian and I could already speak Polish. So I think depends on the language. But with a Slavic language, I think nowadays I could, depending on the approach, I could get like close to a like to an A2 level, a very good A2
mhm.
level. You can get in 3 months.
Yeah, no, I agree completely because when I started learning Polish, I could already speak Russian. So I did the opposite way that you did, actually. I came
I think
from
it's the most
Russian.
common way, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And like Russian, it took me more than a year. I say because I was not using the same methods that I used today. That we created language boost courses using as well. I was much younger, and then many years later, when I started to learn Polish, not only my methods were better, but also I had Russian as a kind of like a not a backup, but like as a support, as a base. And I remember that after maybe 7 or 8 months, I went to Poland to meet a friend that was living there. She was like my tandem, my language partner, and we spoke only in Polish. Like I was there for maybe 4 5 days, I think. We met maybe 4 days, and we spoke only in Polish every day. Sometimes I didn't know one word, or I didn't understand. I asked her, "Can you repeat? Can you use other words?" Or if I really didn't understand, I could use Google Translate. But we could keep conversations going for 4 days. It was really impressive to me, like that you could reach a conversational level this fast. I think it was the first hard language, let's say, that I got good in this fast. And
It's just sad. I think the experience is something important as well that we need
mm,
to bear in mind. Like you already had experience with some languages, but in the beginning, when you didn't have, things get much harder. Yeah, and I
ex-
think it's good to tell it to people.
yeah, definitely. And this is a question that I really wanted to ask President Obama, but we're still waiting. Maybe he's gonna come back at any moment. But it's how does knowing these languages help you when you travel abroad, when you travel to other countries? Have you ever been to a country that you thought, oh my God, it's going to be super hard, or it would be super hard if I didn't speak this language?
Yeah, I think Italy is very hard if you don't speak the language. Especially like I lived around Turin in a very very small city, so I cannot imagine life there with English. And also, I think other countries like even in Poland, when you are not in big cities, you can struggle without Polish. And I noticed like other foreigners that don't speak Polish, even in the polyglot gathering. I remember like some friends of mine of us asking me, "Can you help me to order a coffee in the bar of the?"
Yeah.
Uh, because the waitress couldn't speak English, so it's challenging, and you are not very independent in some because actually the polyglot gathering was not in Warsaw, it was in a small city. Probably in Warsaw it would be a little bit different. So yeah, and I think in Poland, as I said, you walk around like in Warsaw and you hear a lot of Russian, you hear a lot of Ukrainian, and sometimes you hear Belarusian. And also knowing this language also help you because I noticed that, for example, you can find a place to have your haircut, which only Russian-speaking people go, and another place only Ukrainians go. So you get to some situations sometimes that everyone that you are surrounded, it speaks a certain language, and if you don't know that language, it's a little bit complicated. I've been in that situation, and I'm trying to improve my Russian, for example, because it's a little bit uncomfortable. Like you are the only person in that place that do not speak Russian. So yeah, I mean, I think it happens even sometimes where you live, where actually it's not the first language of the place.
Yeah. There was a funny story that happened some years ago when we went to the polyglot gathering in Bratislava in Slovakia. And we were at a table with a lot of polyglots, and the waiter came and he couldn't speak English as well. It was like a big restaurant in the center of Slovakia, but he didn't speak any English, was an older man. And I tried to speak Polish with him, and he understood everything that I said, and I understood what he said back to me, because somehow, like, I didn't know until up to this point, but Polish and Slovakian, they're really similar. I had a similar thing with Czech, but with Czech was hard, maybe because of the accent, I'm not sure. But with Slovakian, it was like almost the same language, like the words, the way they're structured, it was really similar. And I was this person that you just mentioned, that I had to order for my friends and to get the bill and split the bill in Polish in Slovakia. So it was not even in the country,
Yeah,
but I could use one of the languages that I had learned before. It's for me,
yeah.
it's incredible.
I had a situation like that as well when the war started. I worked three times in the rail station, helping the people who were coming from Ukraine. And once it came my family, I tried to speak them like to speak to them in Russian. They didn't understand English. They didn't understand. I was like, and then we started like sign language trying to show. And there was a moment that I was like, which country? And then they said Slovakia. So okay, let's speak Polish. And then I started speaking Polish, and we managed to explain to them. They could understand everything. For some reason, I also could understand a lot. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, Elisa, I think President Obama is not coming back, but thanks a lot for filling up for him here. And I hope to talk to you soon to have another interview with you and with Obama as well, of course, in the future
sure.
here on Language Boost.
Yeah, we need to tell President Obama to submit a complaint about the IT support that was not able
Yeah,
to help him, to take
unfortunately.
part today in the interview. And yeah, I hope to we'll be collaborating more. And yeah, I hope to see you soon in person here
Yeah, for
in
sure.
Poland.
See you, and thanks a lot, guys.